You are listening to Cemetery Confessions, the world's #1 goth talk podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Cemetery Confessions. I am your host, Danny Ashes, and I'm here with my co-host, Trey. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about goth dance. Some sociologists have called goth a spectacular subculture. This assertion is largely linked to our style, our sartorial idioms, but of course we are a community of art lovers, and our body is our art in more ways than one. It makes sense, then, that our expressions and interaction with music would be as dramatic and theatrical as the music itself. Goth dance is a literal embodiment of goth culture. If goth culture is embedded in music, then our physical expression of that music is most certainly a bringing forth or summoning of goth. In many ways, dance allows us to become goth itself. When we talk about how to define what goth is, I've always argued that some form of socialization, of community, must be included. Goth is a community, and to be a goth, some form of community involvement is required. Communities create meaning and purpose, and for those communities to persist, members need to take intentional actions and participate in cultural activities. I think dance is one of those practices. French sociologist Durkheim coined this concept of collective effervescence. It's a flow, an energy, a rising excitement or euphoria that emerges from intense collective activities. It's a transcendent emotion, a social glue, something that religious communities might attribute to a god, but in secular settings is produced by the interaction between music, motion, vibes, and dance. We all know, of course, that physical movement dumps feel-good neurochemicals, and when you combine that with the mirroring and mimicking of the motion of others around us, the heightened emotions of music, it's a recipe for a full-body high. All that to say, dance is not merely corporal movement, but it's also the connection between humans and, historically, the gods. Humans have danced for the harvest, for fertilization, for fun, of course, and for thanks even, and most especially for communication and understanding among members of a society. Like music, dance communicates what cannot be spoken with words. It is a carrier of social norms, of philosophy, and cultural stories interpreted in a particular context with a particular audience as a kind of a fluid and flexible form of artistic expression. So let's explore the world of goth dancing together. And for that purpose, we have assembled with us a group of extraordinary dancers, including Yasmine, who dances professionally as Shia Scarlett, and is also one half of the industrial band XandStacy, music enthusiast and passionate record collector Tony, and a previous guest of the show, as well as one of the most thoughtful goths I know, Hani. So I'd like to introduce each of you to our audience. If you can tell us a little story about your journey into goth. How did you discover goth industrial subculture, and what was that process like?
I used to live in Carroll Stream, Illinois, and I'm vaguely remember all these memories right now. But my parents were very much into the goth community, very much into goth. My dad actually was telling me how he first started out with like house music. He used to DJ stuff. He used to DJ at his own parties. He used to host parties. And he said, yeah, I remember him telling me that he like walked into Wax Tracks and was hearing, I think it was either Nitzer or American Dildos. And
Mm,
he was like, oh, who is this? And, the guy was like, what's American Dildos? And he was like, well, I like this. So he like brought them their records and got really into EBM and industrial and did a lot harder stuff. So growing up, that's all I really like used to would listen to. And I thought that was normal, like my
yeah.
parents would just like listen to this stuff. My dad had this like red pickup truck and he had these speakers built in. He was just blasting like
Hell yeah.
dildos, like, all the time. And again, like it was just like a normal thing that I grew up around. And my mom grew up in Mexico and she when she came to the States, like she would was I would say like a rockero, but like she was into, like punk stuff and
Mm,
into like hard rock. But then when she met my dad introduced her to a lot more of like the goth stuff and she like ended up liking it and was like, hell yeah, and would like always dance to it. And they would go to Neo and they would dress up in, black and my dad would put eyeliner, paint his nails. My mom would wear like platforms and like,
hell yeah.
my aunt would babysit us. So I would just see like my two parents going out in this like goth out outfit, go to the city and my dad's like, one of these days when you turn 21, you'll go with us, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, I got it all from my parents, really. So,
That's amazing. I hope I have a 12-year-old, so hopefully I can provide a similar environment to him, but that's a really
yeah,
fantastic story.
that's awesome.
Tony, what about you? I'm sorry, you want to go by Tony or Anthony?
I grew up like just being at home all the time, play video games.
Mm,
My parents didn't let me get out, so video games will be my influence. Let's say like Legacy of Kain or
excellent.
like like the Gothic games like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bloodlines,
And
Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines at all?
oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Then just very sheltered, and I had like basic television, so I didn't have access for anything cooler than that. But uh I went on MySpace and like I found like gaming communities on that somehow. But
Mm,
like I did my own research and they like shared like a very like emo goth
yeah.
uh just love for it. And I remember just one person had this song by Maximum the Hormone. It was Zetsubu Billy, and that like was the world for like J Rock,
Mm,
Visual K, like Japan's rock and roll, gothic
yeah,
rock.
yeah.
I didn't know who it was at the moment, but I visited got MySpace to figure out who the hell is this. And, like I looked up like their A through Z to figure out which Japanese
Yeah.
group.
I did shit like that, yeah.
So it's just a lot of internet stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and like Gilgamesh, Duran Gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was my
Mm-hmm.
like my world of goth. Like it was heavy metal music and rock, and
Yeah.
that was my introduction right there. And what got me into industrial music was my music teacher in high school, which we shared a love for music of post punk music like Joy Division.
Mm,
Like Joy Division itself, like other bands like Susie and the Banshee, I also discovered online. A lot of it was just online. The Sheltered Child, trying to figure myself out. And but industrial was like a whole nother like level for me. It was something, I don't know, spiritual, I guess.
mm, yeah.
and and my my my
Okay.
music teacher, he was like oh, like we shared my music, like My Bloody Valentine as well. It's like, and
Mm,
then he just asked me randomly, I was like, oh, do you like industrial music? I was like, I don't know what that is.
yeah, yeah.
I had no idea. And he talked to me about like Skinny Puppy, Ministry, and other other bands that in that realm. And I looked up Skinny Puppy, and Smother Hope was the first song I heard, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like the vocals is just not common, like, and yeah, that right there that just grew and grew, and just more I went on the rabbit hole of like just the history of industrial music, because I'm a big nerd when it comes to that. When it comes to my interests, so I just like look through, Throbbing Gristle, Cabaret Voltaire,
Yeah.
heads. Like I love the first wave of industrial music, and that was, I think, my high school teacher for that.
That's awesome.
And Hani, yourself?
Well, first of all, hello to the co-hosts.
Hello.
I'm glad everyone was able to make it. So we did do an episode before, so I did
Yeah.
mention
It's been a
possibly
while.
some of my influences. It's been a while. That was actually the more fun part of the episode, because most of that episode was just me ranting about politics. But the first part was more about Goth and influences.
Mhm.
Similar to some of the points that Tony had just mentioned, video games did play a role, like what he just mentioned for like Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, stuff like that. These all had really good original soundtracks attached to them. These composers are definitely underrated for the most part, video game composers.
Yeah.
Because they have to work with a lot of mood and storytelling. You know, they can't rely on lyrics much. And I think when you asked me last time, I mentioned like Contra and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it grows. It grows with you. I mean, I tried to track when exactly I first kind of got into goth music, and I had some of my old playlists saved on YouTube. I think I found a few songs here and there by The Cure or Bauhaus or Susie. For the most part, it was these three mixed within a sea of like thrash metal and grunge and doom metal and punk rock and this and that. So I don't think I understood that this was goth at the time, but I must have come across it. I must have liked it and just added it on there. As far as the Japanese bands that Tony was talking about, I'm actually planning a trip to Japan. Hopefully, it does come to fruition at the end of the year. And I was kind of like taking recommendations from some of my friends, and one of them is he's like a fellow metalhead. His daughter organizes these Japanese events here in Chicago. She brings bands over, and he told me that when they went to Japan years ago, he got to see Gilgamesh live in Japan, which is freaking crazy. Imagine going to Japan and getting to see an act like that live. And he's telling me about the etiquette of Japanese metalheads. It's just totally different from what we have going here. Like they all just hop in the mosh pit all at once, very synchronized almost. And then when they're done moshing,
I've seen that.
They all return to their exact same spot.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that would never happen here.
Thank you all for being here. I want to talk almost exclusively about dance in some form or fashion for this episode. So I think sort of along the lines of your introduction to goth subculture, you know, I sort of see dancing as its own way of experiencing the world and its own way of expressing yourself. So over the course of your life, what was it that I guess attracted you to dancing? What was it about dancing that provided something for you that maybe you didn't get in other ways? Yasmine, if you're okay going first.
Again, but my family, it revolves a lot. Dancing is a big thing in my mom's side. She used to always tell me stories how she used to go out dancing all the time, and in Mexico City with her sister, my aunt Bertha. And it was obviously like a different type of like genre and like culture, subculture. Sorry, it was more like, you know, dancing to cumbia, bachata, and like salsa, merengue, and I would always see them dance at like parties at like quinceañeras or weddings, and I've always just wanted to dance like them, and it looked hard. It looked, as a kid, I was like, oh my God, that looks so hard. I don't know if I can dance like that. And my mom would like move quick. She would dance so quickly, all like the footwork, all like the movements, especially with cumbia. I was like, wow, that looks really cool. And sometimes she would be like, come dance with me. And she would show me like the basics. And I got into it eventually. I would say maybe in like high school, I was very much getting into more of that type of dancing. Again, like getting into like, my culture and like being around more of that, especially being around family. And we have these big mirrors in my basement, and I would just teach myself how to dance to cumbia, teach myself how to dance to bachata, and try to do the hip movements and all this other stuff. So like, I began doing that that way, and I was like on a dance team in high school. It went from trying to do like more choreography stuff to like more like just expressive dancing, more improv, more just being myself rather than being in like a choreography or having like how do you call it? Or more of like an organized dance, I guess. So I just would just dance freely, and it made me feel great, very euphoric. And I don't know, just it's good to just feel yourself, and not even, with every type of music. I feel like it's different depending on what you're listening to. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, what about you? What was what drew you to dancing? How did you get into that?
Just the music itself. I'll say growing up, my parents they always wanted me to dance with them, but I completely refused, and I just hated. I was a very shy kid, outcasted. So like when it comes to school as well, any like the dances that they did, I completely hated. So just it's crazy, just like going from not dancing and then yeah, just constant listening to music. And then I remember this one day, just well, every night, like growing up when I was in like during high school, and when after high school, I would at night I would just listen to music for hours, and then I would just like start to move my body, and I just really want to feel. I just want to, like, just shout it out like through my body, and it was Cocktail Twins that made me just feel just so free. And it
Right.
was a song, "Purr," and just in love. Just I finally like expressed myself just on my own in the middle of the night, and just started dancing, and whatever the music feels, I should just let it out. Just let it out on the floor or whatever, wherever I am.
Yeah.
And once I turned 21, I back when I used to see Adrian more often, he'll tell me about, well, before I turned, because Adrian is like a year older than me. He'll tell me about Club Neo, about Wax Trax Industrial Night at Club Berlin, and later on Late Bar and Nocturna. I went Nocturna pretty later on as well, but the first nights I went to Club Neo and Wax Trax Industrial Nights at Club Berlin, which it was just a big opener for me, and I didn't really. Yeah, definitely.
It was a crazy night.
And then the a lot of the music I didn't understood because I never looked at Wax Trax industrial music. Yeah, like Chris and Cozy and Cabaret Voltaire, like the first wave of industrial music was in Wax Trax, but I didn't know My Life as a Thrill Kill Call. I didn't know just a lot of songs. I didn't know many of them, and they were kind of hard to get into because they were very groovy, and I was more into just like the more stompy sounding, more aggressive but that like put me into a new light in my head, and I was like, oh, I could. And just seeing the people there, just to dance, like, dude, these are people that grew up like throughout the when Punkin' Donuts existed and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they danced amazing. I was incredibly influenced, and now I don't see him anymore. But time has passed. But that's but
Yeah.
that's just the reality right there. Some of them still do dance to this day, and but yeah, that was my journey right there, and it just dancing feels so. It's such a in the moment thing. It gives me so much clarity after dancing because that's what I love to do, and I get to explore myself with being more accepted with many different music and many different forms of just moving my body and just listening, and I loved it. Just what the DJs bring to the floor, like I love it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hell yeah. And Hani, what about you?
Well, I wasn't much of a dancer for some time.
Mm.
Oh, before that, I just want to mention that I think it's a great thing that you hosted Dr. Goth, one of the few people that I actually listen to on TikTok when it
Oh,
comes to
really?
goth stuff.
Hell yeah.
Very well read.
Yeah, he's
And,
great.
and yeah, stumbled on his channels absolutely random. But definitely knows his stuff. I'm like, wow, this is like I always wonder what it would have been like to have him on this podcast, but lo and behold, you went and got him
I'm glad
somehow.
we can make that happen for you.
It was a fun episode
Yeah.
to
He was
record.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as me and dancing, I think I only danced a little bit when I was a kid. I mean, we're talking like 7, 8 years old, maybe 7, even 8. And it was my sister and my cousin. They used to have these VHS tapes of like these 80s songs and hits. Like we're talking like Michael Jackson and Cyndi Lauper and things like that.
Mhm.
Nothing too crazy or deep or anything. So and it was fun to dance, and they would play these, and would be would be me and some of our neighbors' kids and some cousins that were all like kids. Would just be having like a little dance party. That was like for kids. When I started getting into the actually music scenes, again, I was more of a punk rocker, metalhead, and we only knew how to headbang and and mosh and things like that. We weren't much for the dance floors.
Yeah, I was the same way.
When I wanted to get into it after listening to some goth, this is good. Is there goth events in Elizabeth City? So I went, and I think I just Googled it, to be honest with you, because I didn't know any of. I wasn't plugged in. I didn't know any of the people.
Mhm.
First thing that popped up was Nocturne. So I went to Nocturne, and I think I must have shown up pretty early in the night because I do remember the dance floor being, for the most part, empty-ish, and I was on the main floor, kind of like dressed up for it, a little bit excited, but as soon as I got there, I didn't know exactly what to do because I'm not a dancer.
Mhm.
But so I was swaying. I think that I had that going for me. I was swaying about back and forth because I liked the music. And I noticed the lights were really dim, unlike
Yeah.
the usual club. So it was way dimmer than a standard club. So I'm like, okay, people can't see what I'm doing, so that's a good thing. And then I realized something very, very important. God don't seem to know exactly how to dance. They're just doing whatever. So I'm like, hey, let me do whatever too. That's
Mhm.
kind of how it
Yep.
started. Yeah, there was like no rhyme or reason to any of it. There were just like these erratic movements and like zombies swaying about and like so that was cool. I did meet that last nocturna, I met these two young people there. One was dancing, and she had her kind of like, she had her friend with her, but her friend wasn't much of a dancer, and she would dance really well. But she had her, she was facing Sarah. She was facing the DJ,
Mm-hmm.
and she was right on the barricade, so nobody could really see how well she's dancing. And I like tapped her on the shoulder, like, "Hey, I think you're dancing really, really good. Would you like to, have a dance with me?" So we danced, and it was really fantastic. And for the most part, the friend was just, hanging, but he wasn't doing much of the dance. And he started, at one point opening up and saying, "Hey, I'm not really good at this." And I told him, "Well, you're in luck, because like the goth DJ nights, they're the least judgy spaces. And there is no such thing as quote unquote dance moves. And there is no right or wrong way of dancing. You just move the way you feel like moving, kind of like what Tony was just describing. And you build your confidence here. Like, this is the space to build your confidence."
Yeah, that's really interesting. I actually want to talk about dance moves in a second, but Yasmine and Tony, you both mentioned also preferring to dance more in the moment rather than sort of like stringing a bunch of dance moves together. And you also mentioned seeing your parents dance. So I guess I wanted to ask how, because Hani sort of just talked about this. How did you learn goth dancing when you started going to clubs, and how did that evolve? Did you start incorporating or taking influence from like cumbia and other styles of dance and using those in your goth dance?
Growing up, I was, I was watching my family dance at parties and stuff. But when my mom would, when my dad would put like goth music on, because he actually had like a goth box CD that he would
Oh
always play,
yeah.
and I know like Switchblade Symphony would play and stuff. My
Mhm.
mom loved them so much. She would have these like, it was always all about the arms, like she would have like her arms out, and she would just have these interesting moves that I always loved. And I took her, her dance moves, and I made them my own. And, um, eventually kind of made my own like goth dance, or my own, moves dancing to, Switchblade Symphony, or Incubus, Succubus, like
Mm-hmm.
any of those cool goth bands that, my parents would always play. So that's kind of how I saw and I learned. My dad would put on music videos and stuff. He was also very much into agrotech, like very much into like God Module, or like who else? Freaking like maybe BB Nation or Icon Coil type of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
They would all like be dancing in the crowd, all like
Mhm.
like very interesting, to see. And I also kind of, would see those kind of type of videos. And even though that stuff was a lot more like harder, and like
Mhm.
especially like a band like Osico, like they were more
Yeah.
like maybe like bouncing up and down, but there's other people like kind of again with the arms and kind of like having their own cool dance moves. And I kind of like was inspired and made those moves and kind of made my own. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Mick Mercer talking about the Batcave who said that the show was as much on the stage as it was in the crowd. And so I think
Yes.
that's totally accurate. What about you, Tony? How did you, when you did turn 21, you started going out? Was it also sort of like let me see what other people are doing and kind of figure it out myself?
Yeah, in a way, but the majority of how I started to move my body is just from I watched a lot of videos, live performances. I loved seeing Ian Curtis just like wail his arms around, like
Yeah.
just through his music. I thought that was amazing, and just very in his own moment and his own expression. When I saw like that very very famous live performance of Skinny Puppy for Assimilate, how like he's just wailing his head through this electronic music, and I thought that was just really cool stuff. But seeing that as like a 18-year-old, I was just like, whoa. And so like I incorporated my just the intensity of the music and just be incredibly aggressive and just fidgety throughout the dance floor. And that's how I would start off. And I thought that was like a little weird because like nobody else would do that as well. Everyone's like,
Right.
but before like nights for uh it was industrial, but not the ones that it was like the like future pop music.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with it. I know some artists.
Like Assemblage 23, Nam Nam Bulu, VNV Nation. That kind of
Yeah, yeah. I never listened to that music, so it was like it wasn't aggressive enough for me. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it wasn't hitting me at the beginning, but so I was like it's okay. Like whenever it got to music that was more harder, I just like went full force and just started to do that. But then it's just like the times more times I kept going to these nights, just listening to his music. And then of course like the people that were dancing to it that are just completely immersed to the music, especially for the Wax Trax Industrial. I tell this story a lot, but if you guys know Polly, he's like a wonderful dancer. I remember him dancing to Window Pane at the song by Coil,
Mm.
and had no idea how to move my body slowly. I was just like a very irritated boy, like 21 years old, just trying to be fast. But um, he looked like Polly. He danced that song, and I was just in awe. He looked like a flower. He looked just his movement was just beautiful.
Mm.
He's like cosmically somewhere else. So like he just knows how to do it. He knows how to move. So like that was my like inspiration. I wanted to like be comfortable with my movement and discover more for myself to see what I can do. And it's a lot of patience and discipline when it comes to like if you don't know how to move your body, it takes time. So
Mm.
it's not just like that. Like I
Right.
want to just keep going and see what I can do. And it just kept going and testing my limits and just be conscious about what I'm thinking and what's happening when I do go in trance, like or when it does happen. It's a whole like journey right there, just going through different phases of music when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the dance floor. And I guess like an acceptance of the people surrounding you
Mm.
and the what the DJs are playing. Like, I'll say like early on when I first started dancing, I was like a hater for a lot of future pop music because it's just I thought it wasn't good in general. But I love it. I love it now. It's
Mm-hmm.
a total different perspective how I see it from now and then. But
Yeah, I do think there are plenty of fun prescribed dance moves. So some of the ones that I'm familiar with that I've seen used over the years or heard people talk about are the mopey two-step, where you're kind of looking at the floor as if you're standing over the grave of a loved one or something. There's the
hard.
yeah, the most classic is like the pluck the cobwebs or sweep the cobwebs. But I think of it as imagining you're a maid at the Addams Family house, but you don't have a dusting brush, so you're just like, going through the halls. Um, and then there's the more jerky kind of like Frankenstein's monster sort of moving between being erect or flopping around like you're sort of in physical torment. There's the taffy pulling, which I saw Mick Mercer said he thought that was taken from the Vincent Price version of Mask of the Red Death.
Mm.
And then of course Stomp the Hobbits is a classic. That's one of the first ones I heard, which is really funny. And then one of the ones I saw from a YouTube video that I thought was cute was the grab the bat, love the bat, and set the bat free, which is I thought was delightful. But in that vein, Trey, I wanted to ask. I know you're very much a sort of freestyle dancer. How did you get into dance? What was your inspiration, and how did that evolve over time?
I guess my history with dance has really went through a lot of stages. So when I was very young, probably in the 5 to 9 range, I don't have good memories of this, but I have stories from parents. I was very much a sort of active dancer at any sort of family event. So like at weddings or things like that, where there'd be a dance floor, I would get out on the floor and I'd do my own thing out there. And I got a nickname of Happy Feet. So it was definitely a lot of footwork, a lot of bouncing around. Definitely a very active dancer as a child. But I think I've discussed this in previous episodes. There was I guess it's a trauma. It's a minor trauma. It's not really a personal trauma, but it was a big reset of my entire social world when my family moved from Colorado to Illinois when I was about 9, which basically meant I had a full reset on my entire social life. So I lost ties with all my friends, had no real easy way of getting in touch with them. I mean, yes, we had phones, but this was the late 80s. So there wasn't internet, there wasn't chat rooms. The only way I could have any contact with them would be mail or telephone. And I just didn't. So basically, total reset on my social environment. And at that point, I became sort of much more introverted. That's where kind of the personality I sort of have now, though you kind of dig more out of it, but that developed around that time. And I sort of fell away from something so outgoing as public dance. I would still, do stuff at family events and places where I was comfortable. But then going into high school, I had my sort of dark turn away from the arts. So I decided that the arts were a waste of time. I needed to be serious, concentrate on academics, math and science, those hard forms. And so that really sort of broke me away from all of this, which, I think I've mentioned in the past is something I regretted going through, but thankfully I've gotten over it. And then it was, with my discovery of goth adjacent music, and then, a friend who introduced me to actual goth bands that truly got me into it. And that started as just a music thing initially. But then when I went off to college, we had a 18 plus goth night there down in Champaign, Illinois. And so that was my first introduction to a goth club space. And like a lot of people, I started by just sort of immersing myself in the atmosphere and absorbing everything I could. So I wasn't getting out there on the floor at the beginning because I didn't know. I had no frame of reference. I mean, the only thing I knew of dance was, I learned very standard dances, saw people did at weddings, didn't really do any proms or any popular dances, but I watched a lot of MTV. So I was steeped in the MTV of the 80s and 90s. So I knew my Michael Jackson and Paula Abdul and Debbie Gibson, and some of the more interesting dances like your Cyndi Laupers and Tony Basil and stuff like that. But that was sort of my frame of reference. And then the style in going to the goth clubs was very, very different and very formal, very foreign to me. But it was also very alluring to me because it spoke to that part of my childhood that was kind of buried, that sort of freedom of doing whatever I wanted, but also stayed within the introvert side of me that I had been inhabiting for many years as well, because there wasn't the sense that the people there were dancing with other people or for other people. They were just dancing. They were just doing their own thing. And that really worked for that combination of wanting to be a free spirit dancing, but also wanting to be not the center of attention, not this big spotlight on me. I just wanted to do my own thing, but for me, not for everybody else. People would come up and compliment me on my dancing. And that was what really broke me through into becoming much more passionate about this and sort of seeking out different inspirations. That's why I did take some coursework while in college. I did some modern dance with some friends from the club. We went and did some tango lessons. So that's most of my formal education was, modern dance and tango. I did a little bit of swing, and then of course I did always enjoy a lot of the classic dance movies as well. Starting in the 80s, you had your Footloose and Dirty Dancing and things like that. But then I got into in the 90s things like Breakin' and Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. Those were a lot of fun, introduced me to a lot of urban styles that I really incorporate. There's a lot of jazz styles I incorporate, especially some of the choreography by Bob Fosse in shows like Chicago, Cabaret. That's a lot of a core influence for me as well. And that also dovetails with my interest in Michael Jackson early on, because Michael Jackson was very heavily influenced by Bob Fosse as well. So I have a lot of that sort of jazz style, jazz and popping and locking from the early hip hop days, as well as some of those formal styles, the free form, expressive styles of modern, an enjoyment of ballet. I've definitely went and saw a number of ballets, and I like that, though it's a little bit more formal, which is part of why I gravitate more towards modern, which is, take the technique of ballet, but let's free it from the strictures of ballet. I go to a lot of belly dance. I've been to a lot of burlesque shows, so I take a lot of touches from that. I take some touches from flamenco. I like that as a dance style a lot. A little bit of Southeast Asian dance, especially Thai dancing I do enjoy. And then a recent discovery that I still haven't really gotten into, but I've really found intriguing and very well dovetails with goth style is Japanese Butoh. And I need to dig into that a lot more.
Oh yeah, I was reading about that actually. Yeah, we can maybe get into that late in the post show too. Okay, well let me. I kind of want to bounce around to a couple different topics. One of the conversations I've seen happen online around dance is the generational difference in dance, and one of the main things I've seen is people talking about how specifically Gen Z are very subdued in their dancing because they have this fear of being recorded and like made fun of online, just sort of growing up in social media and that sort of thing. So they have this tendency to not like raise their arms above their waist or whatever. And in my experience, goth dancing is very much, like you said, in the arms. So I kind of wanted to ask, I guess, the two parts sort of, have you noticed generational differences with new people coming into the clubs? And then also just like tips for getting over anxiety for anyone who's worried about what they're going to, if they're going to be judged for not dancing well enough or that kind of thing.
I actually never heard about like a few people not like raising their arms above their waist and stuff like that, because I've always been like dance like no one's watching type of energy, you know what I mean? So like I feel like with social media, it's funny too, because there's times where I scroll on TikTok. I mean, I have it, I used to post a lot, but now I'm like, like it's brain rot. I kind of don't like want to stay, but there's times where like there's people being like, oh, type of goth dances and like how to move and all this stuff. And, before TikTok and before, all of that, that wasn't really like a thing. You just would go to like a show and you would just see people dancing how they wanted to. And it was very welcoming, I feel like, in an environment, because it made what for me at least nowadays, it's very much like you have a lot of baby bats coming, into the scene or coming into trying to, get into the goth community and stuff, and probably not knowing how to dance properly, or not knowing like how, what to feel or what to do. Because I have seen that lately. Like there's some people or some like younger people, being in the corner, just kind of like watching, maybe not being a little afraid. But in reality, honestly, at a goth show or in the goth community, I mean, there's no proper way to dance, like you just feel how you want to feel. You just dance how you want to dance.
Yeah.
Again, like dance like no one's watching. Feel the music. That's exactly how, like, I mean, that's what I do, And I think with tips, again, that's what I would say. If you want to, take any inspo, maybe go to a show that you really want to go to and just like people watch a little bit. Obviously not be like creepy or anything, but like people watch and be like, oh, like, wow, that looks cool. And when I used to, there was a time where I wasn't as like into the goth scene as I am today, mainly because I was very much in the hardcore scene or in the metal scene for a while. And even then, like they they have different types of dancing too. So like I won't go all into that, but like
Windmill.
I mean, yeah, windmill, two-stepping, all of that stuff, and it was it's a very interesting thing to see. Like different types of scenes have different types of dance and different types of like energies and all of that. But I mean, like, again, watching other people and seeing how they dance. And I've always had people come up to me and be like, oh my God, I love the way you move. And I'm like, I'm just moving, girl. Like, just feeling the music. And that's all you have to really do, And again, like, if anyone has something to say negatively, fuck them.
Yeah.
Who cares what they say? Like they're insecure about themselves. Like, if you have that confidence, I would say just go for it.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think a lot of it is confidence, because even if you are sort of dancing different than everyone else, or if you want to say it's cringe or whatever, if you're really into it, I think the fact that goth is a very creative community, people are just going to appreciate the fact that you're kind of doing your own thing anyway. I've seen that happen plenty of times.
Yeah, when I'm watching people out on the dance floor, I want to see the passion. I don't care if you're technically perfect. I don't care if you're even on the beat or have a style that I could place my finger on. I want to see you, like you said, Yasmine, I want to see you dancing like nobody's watching. That's what I like to watch. That's what I usually tell people when they're, concerned about it or concerned about not being good enough. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're good enough. Just express yourself and just have a good time, and people will love it or they won't. And that's their problem, not yours.
Exactly.
Yep. Tony, what's your view on that? Do you think there is a generational difference, or maybe the internet has changed the way people dance in clubs now?
Yeah, I definitely think that it has changed and it has grown, honestly. Because before the pandemic, I would go to a lot of these dance nights, and if there was like people that were the same age as me, they wouldn't. It was more difficult, I feel, that to go on the dance floor. I don't know. It felt like that. I would see, and just like it was. I don't know if it was like intimidation or just like trying to figure out how to just start off just dancing on the floor. But I think nowadays, like I I don't know what's up with the social media much. I don't really use too much of it, but uh, I've seen way more people creatively, like, have a lot of creative dancing. I will mention Bittersweet. Like when I go to those nights, like it'll be so packed, and so many people will be dancing, and like I'm like, whoa! I never experienced this before. Because like I started dancing back in 2015, and there was no consistency like that. I had never, and that Nocturna is more bigger than
Nocturna's
ever.
been insane the last couple of years. Ever since the pandemic, it just exploded.
Exactly. I'll say this, like, I mentioned a funny thing about Nocturna. Like I think, I I can't think of the first couple times I started going after the pandemic, but the first couple times, every time a song would end, people would clap for it. And that was, I was like, what is this shit? You don't clap for every song,
Yeah,
like, but these,
those are
I
funny.
think it's because like a lot of them were young and they never experienced things like this. So, at a concert, when a song finishes, you clap for it. But maybe that was the idea.
Yeah.
But this past Nocturna for the Valentines, there was actually no clapping. I was like, oh, they stopped. they're like they're like exploring. They've explored through the Gothic dance scenes and throughout the time. So, and they've just realized like, oh, we, maybe I don't know. It's what it seems like. But they didn't clap for this one, so I was like, oh, okay. But I think it has grown. So, maybe because like of the how well accepted it is to just dance. It looks more encouraged to me.
Yeah.
And I think there's less people scared to join in. Friends are there to support you and have a good time. But yeah, I don't see like a downside to it, as far as what I'm
Mhm.
observing.
Yeah. Hani, do you have thoughts on that, or maybe like tips for being less self-conscious and that sort of thing?
Well, I just want to further emphasize having non-judgy spaces, which are what goth spaces are known not being judgy.
Yeah. Well,
Using the opportunity.
I mean,
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
I might have
there's
thought about
us,
that.
but most people.
There's a
Yeah,
different style of judginess that's not quite as overt, it seems, as a
yeah,
standard
yeah,
goth.
yeah.
Because
There's
people
the
are still
side eye stuff
judgy.
and
There's
whatnot.
plenty of cattiness in goth spaces, but it's not usually the person who's the target of it has no way of knowing it because it's like a little asides to your friend.
It's mostly online too, I noticed. Or at
Online
least
is
that's
is
where
a
it gets
whole
a
nother
little bit more
world, and
direct.
online is
Yeah.
totally toxic in my opinion. But in the real life spaces, you're right.
On Reddit. Anywho, uh, I
Start a goth war.
I remember what when I first started, I think getting a little better at it and having that confidence. I wanted maybe some guidance. I wanted somebody to give me some feedback, like, am I doing okay? I remember this was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember I was at Treffen, and the DJs were Sean Templar, I believe, Francesca Mendola, and Martin Goldboss.
Mm.
Um, and it was me and Scary Lady Sarah dancing there, and some of our other friends. And I think I asked her about like, "Am I doing good
Yeah.
with the dancing?" And she literally just directly says, "There is no such thing as like good or bad
Yep.
goth dance."
I was expecting
So,
that from Sarah.
so,
Yeah.
hmm so that was one of the things that really helped me out,
Mhm.
because further cemented that idea that you flow with the music, and you do what you do best. I mean, the whole point is getting from point A to point B. Like you look at let's say music videos like Mad World by Tears for Fears, and you see that really cool goth dance, and it's like, oh, what the heck is he doing? Definitely something's going on in the UK around those late 70s, early 80s, maybe years as far as dancing. But I don't think most people would just jump directly and start doing these peculiar, odd dance moves. And it really takes time to build that confidence to get there, to reach a point where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna start doing whatever the heck I want, and I don't care what other people think.
Have you noticed you travel a lot? Have you noticed any differences between dance styles in different places?
Um, no, it's really similar. Yeah, the younger kids tend to be a bit more shy. They do better when they're in bigger groups. Like if they're, if
Yeah.
it's like, let's say a bunch of like 23-year-olds together,
Right.
they tend to like dance more freely and more confidently than if it was just, one of them on their own, things like that. And no, I can't say that I've noticed. I think it's probably because of the internet, things like that. People are looking at, the same kind of like dance videos maybe, or getting the same idea. Maybe everybody's watching Angela Benedict's, types of goth dance
Yeah.
video, or yeah, that was a cool trend that was at the time, that everybody was like making a video of all the types of dances that they were noticing in their clubs. And yeah, in that sense, you do notice that there are some dances that, like, that a creator in the UK could mention some dances that we don't have on like the West Coast, or like somebody on the East Coast could like be mentioning some type of dance that, like, I haven't seen this in Chicago. So there's definitely differences.
Yeah, I remember
But
seeing. I think it was Germany.
mhm.
It might have been England, but it was in the '80s. It was a bunch of people. They were all just looking at, like, in death rock outfits, and just looking straight at the floor and walking in a line forward and walking in a line backward and just going walking back and forth. And I was like, I've never seen anyone do that before.
I mean,
So,
that is kind of the two-step, but without the arm
but it
movements.
was
It's sort of the
more than
no-arm
two-step.
two-step. Well, that's fair, but it's very similar to what the two-step is if you do the no-arm two-step.
Yeah.
I think as far as the generational question is concerned, like all generational questions, that's a real hard one, because it's going to be a mix of maybe some different influences from the generation, but it's also just young kids being not experienced and a little awkward and reticent to do things. I think that's also part of it when you're dealing with people who are, in their early 20s to 30s.
Or me at 39. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, yeah, you're not going to be as ostentatious. You're not going to be as free to do things because you just don't have the confidence. You don't have the experience to develop the confidence. And it takes time, and some people will get the confidence and some people won't. It depends on what inspires you, what makes you happy, um, and what makes you feel comfortable, and how you want to express who you are, what the event or music or whatever makes you feel, and how much you want to broadcast that to people. One thing I do notice dancing, though, when I see people who are, at least from what I can tell, clearly not comfortable in this space, but are still getting out on the dance floor and dancing. If I tend to dance near them and be really ostentatious, I find people tend to free themselves up a little bit more.
Mm.
It's sort of a little bit of, it breaks the ice. It's okay, but it's also, as long as I'm not as big as that person, people won't notice me. So I can be a little bit bigger, a little bit more
Give
free,
them
but
permission.
they're taking the spotlight, so I can be over here in like that shadow and be a little bit more free. So I enjoy watching people, while I dance, to see how they interact with the other dancers, and how, when it's emptier, which is when I tend to prefer to dance. But usually the people who are out there when it's empty are the ones who are pretty confident in themselves to begin with, at least at the beginning of the night. At the end of the night, that's where it's more interesting, because there are definitely people who are staying late. They're still on the dance floor because they've been on the dance floor, but they're not really that comfortable, and things are thinning out and they're getting a little bit more awkward. And that's when I really do notice a little bit more when I get out and be big and ostentatious. I notice some people they seem like they loosen up,
Feed off
and
your
they're
energy.
more free, and they do feed off the energy, and it feels like that I've given them permission to express themselves a little bit more openly. And I really, really like that. It could be a false impression, but I like imagining that I'm giving people the freedom and confidence to express themselves, rather than, the one thing I don't like in dancing is when people come up and say, oh, I really love how you dance. I can't dance like that, so I'm just going to stay over here. I'm like, no, don't do that. Get out there and dance. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. I want to see people expressing themselves, not people being this curated fancy dance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Right, I gotta agree with Trey. Definitely, I did notice the feeding off of energies,
Yes.
and that's why there's something that I developed a fondness for opening up dance floors. I think I dance kind of a little similarly, maybe to Trey in some ways. I do that interpretive kind of dance, that willowy kind of dance,
Mm,
that I don't know, sort of Phantom of the Opera-esque kind of
mm.
dance, all of that good stuff,
That's
and that
mostly
does need
waltzes.
space.
All the good stuff.
Uh-huh. But it does need space though, and the
Yeah.
perfect time to do that is when the dance floor is dead. And
Mhm.
so when I open it up, when people see somebody's doing all these odd, queer, whatever, dark movements, some of them will hop on the dance floor, I notice, and
Mhm.
will try to join and do their thing.
It is crazy
Yeah.
how packed the dance floors are now. Because I remember when there was like 10 people, and you had and goths famously love to dance apart from each other, right? That's a whole other thing we could talk about. But it's
Right.
crazy that now that you can only get an empty dance floor like at the very beginning or very end of the night.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, especially in Nocturna, it gets very, very crowded.
Yeah.
But I have to go back to what you guys were saying about how I'm feeding off the energies as well. I mean, not to like go back to again the hardcore scene, but I would always be like, this little girl being in the pit and like going insane, and then other femmes and other girls will come up to me and be like, oh my god, like you inspire me to go in there.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, girl, go in there, but be careful.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like you have to watch your surroundings. And like I always felt good to inspire other people to like get out of their shell. And it doesn't have to be this masculine thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you see in the hardcore scene, like a girl can do this too, or like a femme can do this too. Like anyone's welcome to do it. Just gotta be careful of your surroundings, especially in that environment. But like in the goth scene, like, and when the dance floor is empty, again, like what Hani said, it's more so it's nicer to dance the way you want to because it's more space and more room, and I get to have more of, again, my weird like arm like movement and not like have to like hit anyone around the area. So it's always nice. And I've had instances where people would look at me and be like, whoa, yeah, and like start dancing like alongside with me too. And when the DJ starts to put their set first or something right after like a show, at the end of the night. So it's always nice to kind of have that, give off that energy and have other people wanting to join you on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me follow up on the gender thing then, because that was one of the questions I had just about the, depending on, you mentioned in hardcore, but in all different kinds of cultures, there can be clear like gender divisions or roles that the dancers play based on their gender.
Mhm.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on whether or not goth sort of disrupts that gender division in dance, or is more gendered in one direction, or what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think that in goth like dance, I feel like it's very gender fluid. I feel like everyone, is welcomed to dance, and I don't see a lot of like, again, comparing it to hardcore scene. I don't get it. Like I don't see a lot of like, oh, only masculine people should dance this way, or only like more like feminine people should dance this way. Like I don't see a lot of that. I see very much diversity, and everyone's kind of just like doing their own thing, and I feel like it's very open, and obviously in the queer community too. Yeah, I think it's very gender fluid, and I feel like, yeah.
Yeah. Tony, any thoughts on that?
I think the same thing. Like the way that people dance, it's can identify it. Like it for me, it looks feminine, but it just also just fits well with to just a setting. It doesn't. It could be masculine as well because I don't know.
Yeah.
It just I don't know. Everyone seems to merge into more or less a similar uh wave of how to dance, but I don't I don't see like a separation or anything like
Yeah.
that. Maybe there is like in other forms of goth music, let's say industrial.
Mm.
There is a masculine, like, but I haven't seen that dance in a good minute, like the stompiness. But
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I don't know. I saw Yasmine beat the shit out of a 55-gallon drum, so that was.
oh yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So
Oh my God.
Well, I guess in my experience, it's just outside of goth dances usually was, and when I was younger, was seen as like something women or gay men did, and
yeah,
Yep.
Mhm.
not a lot
Yeah.
of men had familiarity with dance. So, sort of, I do think that what you were saying, Yasmin, goes along the lines of goth's androgyny and queer history, and just sort of breaking down gender binaries.
Mhm.
But what about you, Hani? You have thoughts on that?
I would agree that the goth dance clubs and the goth dance floor kind of like smears and blurs and absolutely removes the partitions between genders. You see everybody dancing in all sorts of ways, and um, I don't notice a distinction by gender as to the dance, except maybe in one instance when a certain type of music plays. I do notice more of the femme presenting crowd get into that way more, which I believe is the '90s kind of ethereal wave.
Mm-hmm.
A music like the willowy wispy
My favorite.
haunting
Yeah,
kind of.
your Cocktail Twins,
Absolutely.
Project Records.
Yes, like if a
Genre.
Cocteau Twins song played, watch the fellas at Nocturna. They won't exactly be knowing how to interact with that
Mm,
style of music, whereas all of the femmes would be having a blast,
yeah.
and doing their little things. But
Yeah, I mean that's my fucking
yeah,
jam. So I'm all over that stuff.
oh yeah.
did you get to see my little playlist that I made? I made like a volume one of like an ethereal wave playlist.
I
No, please
haven't.
And I
I'll
send
think
it.
have
I had
to. Where'd you post
Yeah,
it?
where is it?
I would so the point of it is to collect like as much as possible of these '90s goth bands that play that style of music, and I
Mhm.
just include like a song per band. So I did like a volume one, which was like 4.5 hours, and I'm on my way to finishing up volume two.
Yeah,
I'll send you a link.
yeah.
I had
Definitely
I
send a
had
link.
Elitist Joe post it.
I might have a couple of suggestions too. We'll see what you have compared to
Oh,
what I
absolutely.
gravitate
I
towards.
Yeah, the only help I had when I made it was Lo, which is the keyboardist for the band called The Last Grasp,
Hmm.
who was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
into this music, and so me and her we kind of like worked on our own playlists, and DJ Philly,
Of course.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
who
Mhm.
is encyclopedic on that. But yeah, I'm all for it because a lot of these bands are kind of like obscure and pretty much extinct for the most
Mhm.
part.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, of that, hopefully that answers that question. Because yeah, that's I think the only type of music where I see differences in genders. Otherwise, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting because there's a lot of different styles of music you'll hear at the average goth club that definitely have a gendered aesthetic to them. You'll have your industrial, which is going to be more usually male coded. You have the marching and militaristic and mechanistic, and of course with EBM, EBM was very explicitly sort of a reaction almost against some of the feminization of early industrial and goth music with this focus on the body and shaping the body in a powerful and usually masculine form. And a lot of that definitely has a lot of masculine coded stuff.
Muscle and hate.
Exactly. The dancers will be embodying those masculine forms, but they aren't necessarily masculine dancers. I
Right.
actually really enjoy watching women go out there and be stompy and aggressive and, cribbing from like crumping and other very aggressive, competitive masculine dance styles. And same thing on the other side, like Hani was saying, with the more ethereal wave and the more expressive, emotional type of music, where it's about embodying the passion, the expression, the emotion of the music, and that is, generally more feminine coded. But you'll see men and women out there emoting and being graceful and passionate and, anguish and sadness and joy and all those sort of emotions flowing across their face and being expressed in how their body moves. So I don't see the dance styles being coded in a way that excludes specific genders, whatever your, personal gender experience is, whether people are physically presenting masculine or feminine, they will move and emote in ways that tends to gravitate or tends to dovetail with the style of music that's playing at the time. Now there is definitely ebbing and flowing of the crowd where there are people who will gravitate towards certain styles of music and will go out there for the aggro tech, go out there for the future pop or EBM. I guess future pop is not a great example because that's kind of in between. But with the EBM and agritech, go out there for those and be aggressive, and then they will hang back when The Cure comes on or when Cocteau Twins starts playing. And the makeup of the dance floor can change in that sense, but it doesn't necessarily dovetail cleanly with, gender expression. So when you look at the people out there, you can't necessarily tell just because of the way they're dressed or the way they carry themselves, which style of dancing they're going to gravitate towards.
Yeah.
I had this thought about like the sexuality of goth dancing. So I guess sort of dovetails with gender stuff, but
it does.
Usually when you hear people compare goth clubs to quote unquote mainstream clubs, a lot of the comparison is that like, well, goth clubs aren't a meat market. So you don't have women being on display for their bodies or being sort of the object of an object to acquire by men and that sort of thing. How do you guys see the sexuality part of dance expressing itself in goth clubs if it's not the way you would think of like a techno club or something like that?
When I read that question too, I was kind of like also thinking about like, about mainstream clubs and, versus like how it would be at a goth club. I don't know. I mean, you guys obviously know, like in Jersey Shore, when the guys would go to the clubs and want to pick up chicks, and like the girls are running on the guys, and they're all like getting really, really sexy with it, right? But like when you see all of that, and you still see that in like a lot of like mainstream like clubs today, like I was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I have a lot of normie friends, and they would sometimes take me to these like normal clubs. I don't know, it's funny saying normal, but it was a very different atmosphere, and you still see like the stuff that you would see like on Jersey Shore and stuff like that. So but when at goth clubs, when you want to like when you meet somebody, actually when I first met my partner, we got a little little sexy on the dance floor. So like, but it wasn't like what would be like at a mainstream like club. It was much more like sensual, very like, I don't know how to explain it, like very, I told him like very vampiric, I guess, like very like how like in like
Romantic,
vampires are very
It's very
romantic. Exactly.
it's
There you go.
slow
That's
and deliberate. It's more about the foreplay than
exactly.
about the grinding and simulated sex.
Yes, exactly.
It's about actual sex. No.
Yeah.
That usually goes to the bathroom or at least a dark corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Dark corner.
I mean, I've experienced I guess a normal club 2 or 3 times, but the one that I remember just everyone was just bumping, grinding, and it sucked. It just
It's
it,
it
it
sucked.
sucked. It was like the no one. I was dancing to the music, even though the music wasn't that good. Um, but everyone just wasted. They're just trying
Yeah.
to fuck for the night, and for the goth scene, it's just more beautiful. I think it could be very artistic, be romantic. So it's just night and day, honestly.
Right. People aren't necessarily there for the music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there for, I guess, see if they could get laid that night.
Mhm.
The majority, if you go to a bar, you're there for that. Or you get to go on a dance floor. That then more to it, I guess. It's just you have alcohol, so
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
that seems to be the direction. And but I don't see enough anything more towards that. It's incredibly boring when they go to
Mhm.
quote unquote normal clubs.
Hani, how are you
But
sucking and fucking on the dance floor?
um, I like to keep it, super respectful on the dance floor.
Yeah,
But observation wise, I gotta agree with him. I mean, I've went to normal clubs. I don't know if normal again is a good word. What's a better word?
sure.
Boring? I
Yeah,
don't know. But
boring.
I've
Mainstream. I mean,
went
mainstream
I
is
meant
usually
the
like the
mainstream.
word
common.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to some of those. I couldn't even dance. That's the problem. I didn't like the music.
yeah.
But yeah, they're all there to pick up chicks or just out on dates, which is what you would kind of expect. Our scene and our spaces are mainly tied with music enthusiasts for the
Mhm.
most part. Just
Yeah.
like I think a totally different focus there, where the primary thing is enjoying that music and seeking out that particular night because it plays that kind of music. Otherwise, they could have all gone to like different clubs. There's like a ton of clubs in Chicago that anybody could have gone to. Big respect to a lot of our people in the goth scene for keeping it real and making those boundaries clear for everybody. And
Yeah.
for we recently had to we go thoroughly and we investigate people who are problematic sometimes. Last person we had to let go of from the scene, we had to call back to their home state in like one of the Carolinas and like ask
Wow.
the local goth night there what is the experience with that
Yeah.
person and try to confirm a lot of the rumors we heard. And then we brought him forth and we had a little meeting with him. And we told them, "Hey, you're not allowed to attend this night or this night or this night or this night." So just so that everybody felt safe, and obviously we consulted as well with
Yeah.
our the people who usually attend these events and stuff, and especially the ladies, because for us as guys, some of the guys were saying, "Hey, let's give this person a second chance. Let's see, maybe he'll do better. Maybe he's
Mhm.
starting a new page." But at the end of the day, we're not his target. We're not that person's
Yeah.
target.
Mm-hmm.
So the opinion that matters the most is the opinion of the ladies, and if they're not safe dancing in their spaces, then there's no point.
Yeah.
Well, big respect to you because that's how it should be, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that goth clubs usually are safe spaces from sexism, homophobia, transphobia, racism, all that stuff. Like that's how it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've, possibly unusually for someone who goes predominantly to goth clubs, I've actually been to a surprisingly large number of mainstream club type events, um, mostly with like work stuff. So my previous job, we used to have the quarterly meetings, but then after the meeting, there'd be people who would go, with one of the people, and they'd go out to a bar, and usually it was a bar slash club in downtown in the Loop. So a pretty mainstream club, and they'd do like a little bit of a bottle service at a table, and we'd all hang out, and sometimes it'd be dancing and things like that. And I would get out and dance every once in a while, mostly because a lot of the mainstream clubs, at least when I was going out, tended to focus a little bit more on hip hop style, and I really do enjoy the beat structure of hip hop. It is very danceable to me, and so I do enjoy doing that. I mean, I mentioned one of my lineages is popping and locking and some of that break culture type stuff. So I can definitely throw that out there, and it is very interesting to dance at those clubs compared to goth clubs. And I do notice getting attention, but not necessarily. I do still give a little bit of a fuck off vibe. So I'm not having people coming up at me. So I still keep that distance a little bit. I will have people dance around me or by me, but I've very few times, occasionally, and usually they're very drunk, I will have somebody come up and start like grinding a little bit. And I'm don't care. That doesn't really offend me, and I'll play with it a little bit, but I'm usually, especially in spaces like that, I'm very reticent about what I let myself do because I have a very strong idea of what is consent and what is not, and then what a drunk person can consent to is a wholly different thing from the standard club attitude towards that sort of thing. So I'm usually pretty reserved, and usually that vibe comes off. So even people who come up and start grinding may or will frequently back off. They'll still be maybe around, but it's a different vibe. Um, but I've definitely been to a lot of and have generally enjoyed it. But it's almost sort of an anthropological trip at that point. That's where a lot of my enjoyment is. It's just experiencing this different culture and observing how the natives are acting in this environment compared to what I'm used to. But I've enjoyed both, so I definitely do get out there. But yeah, not nearly the same degree that I don't feel at home. I very much feel like I'm a visitor watching from the outside, even when I'm in the midst of it and dancing, compared to at a goth club where I definitely feel like I am at home in a comfort zone and um, feel more of an ownership of the space myself.
I don't have a good segue here. I want to, but one of the main questions, at least the question I probably had the most to say about, is this idea of, how goth dance reflects the ideology or the ethos of goth. So, for example, ballet is about lightness and delicacy and sort of trying to detach yourself from the ground.
Yes.
And I've seen that be interpreted as stemming from like Christianity and attempts to get closer to heaven. And then conversely, I've read about just want not to say it's the only interpretation, but like
no, you definitely that's very much an interpretation of ballet.
I've also read about like some African tribes that value the wisdom of the earth, and they dance with like bent knees and heavy jumps, bent over waists to kind of emphasize a connection to the earth. So then if we think about goth dance, I guess to you, what's the meaning being transmitted through the movement? Does it reflect a ethos of goth culture in some way, or a value system?
I mean, a hard question. I'm sorry. It's like I really put that much thought into it. I kind of understand. I hope that maybe my answer makes sense. I dance a lot with like my arms, again, with arms. But I also put my arms above to kind of have like as above and so below type of energy. So like I'm always moving around, type of stuff. I go up and then I go down, and I'm honoring not only the space that I'm in, but also the earth, like the universe that I'm in. So I think like it does in fact have what you were talking about, and I feel like that a lot of people when they dance. Some of them dance to honor the environment that they're in, and kind of like have more of like a spiritual sense their dance. So I feel like in the goth scene, I feel like a lot of that is shown, especially with, I don't know, like, many people practice many religions and all of that, but there is a lot of like witches, in the goth scene. So like, I feel like it also kind of makes them honor not only like their body and soul, but again, the environment they're in and the energies around them.
Great Sisters of Mercy song. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. It's really your perspective. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. What about you, Tony?
I can only think of individuality. At least like from the beginning, just like trying to just let that out, see, and just whatever. I mean, for me, like I grown up like as a bully child, so I that's why I think of just like just letting all the aggression that I held for myself is just for that expression alone. So
It's very I think goth dance is very emotion based.
Emotional,
Yeah.
very emotional. But I can't think of anything any deeper.
I think that's quite deep already.
Well, that's kind of the sort of question that you really need to prepare for. That's it's one of the deeper ones for sure. And I'm sorry, Yasmin, you had to go first. I can only imagine. I'd have been stumped.
Was a little bit, but you know, I pulled through.
You actually did good. I loved your answer. Because it stems from, again, you reverted back to personal experience. And to me, maybe I could do the same, with the goth dance. Maybe it is a type of somehow adorning yourself, let's say, with life's pain, celebrating tragedy in a way, embracing, the darkness of life, and displaying that with elegance, let's say.
Yeah.
It is, in a sense, also an expression of love, expression of love to the song, an expression of love to the melody, an expression of love to the artist. Unless that artist is Morrissey, then it's just the first two that you'd be expressing love. It is deeply personal with the goth dance, and that's what makes the dance styles all the more interesting to observe. When you're on the dance floor and you're doing your thing, but you're also looking at what everybody else is doing, and you're admiring, all the different movements and all the different, mindsets that are on the dance floor. But I think that's kind of what I can say about that.
Well, there's a few different parts of goth dance that I think express a underlying way of being in the world that goth sort of expresses. I like that our style of dance has this flow to it that's kind of whimsical, because it creates this feeling of the uncanny, of being transported to a different world, of, like you were saying, elegance, decadence, elegance. There's this kind of creeping sense of dread, or something being a little bit off. But there's also this like self-deprecating way where we're very seriously not taking ourselves seriously, which is, I think, reflected in goth in a lot of ways. But it's sort of like, the somber dance, the looking down at a gravestone sort of thing. It's sort of like, yes, reflecting on death is a very significant part of life and our community, but it's also absurd, kind of in an absurdist philosophy way. Like a lot of early goth bands, more specifically The Cure, took inspiration from like Albert Camus, just this idea that there's no fundamental order and meaning to the universe, so let's not take ourselves too seriously, let's have fun with it. And so there's that, it's that kind of like paradoxical search for meaning, where we're saying like the world doesn't necessarily have one. There's no fundamental logical script laid out through science, so why not embrace that with whimsy and happiness? And it's dark, but it's not like in a nihilistic way. We're not like saying we want to put a bullet in our brain. We just acknowledge that sometimes we might feel that way. So then we build on that with like the detached irony, the humor, the sarcasm. But really, it's a lot about crafting a world our own way, kind of away from the oppression of other settings like school or home or work or whatever it is, and creating through our movement, through our dress, through our interactions, this world of decadence. But I like the humor, because I think that's maybe something that's not immediately obvious to an outsider. If they were doing anthropological research on the goth community, it might look very mopey and serious. But again, like if you have a dance move called Stomp the Hobbits, I think you can kind of see there's humor underlying all of it. But there's that like Gothic sensibility of the uncanny, which is this idea that it's this experience of something irrational, not rational, in a rational world. And so I think goth in a way tries to create this environment of the strange and inexplicable, that it's not something that just happens in far off ruined castles, but it happens in our daily life. So our house decor, all of this stuff, the club lighting, you mentioned it being very dim. It works to create an atmosphere where you might feel like something magical could happen at any time. Some otherworldly phenomena could pop into existence. And we sort of, when we're dancing, we kind of move past each other like ghosts in the graveyard. And we sort of have these inhuman rotations at weird speeds. And I think that all functions to create this sense of something weird and strange away from this like sterilized corporate dystopia. And back to the emotion thing, I do think, like we all of you sort of said, goth dance is less about being technically adept and more about communicating an emotion. Like you were saying, Hani, taking the pain of the world and making it a pageantry, making it a theatrical display, which I think is reflected in the dance and in the music and in the general like thought process of goths. And, we had a previous guest said that we dance alone together, which sort of goes to that individuality thing you were talking about, Tony, where I think that's like a beautiful metaphor to describe. It's like a collectivist individualism, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it always reminds me of that saying I heard a long time ago that's about goths, that we're all individuals, but we have the same boots on, which sort of speaks to this acknowledgement that we feel forced into these boxes in our daily lives, away from the goth community, whether that's work or school or whatever. And we want to escape from that and express ourselves freely and do it together, but apart at the same time. And it's going back to the witchcraft thing. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love celebrating pagan holidays so much, because it's something I do alone in my room, but I know that there are like thousands of other like-minded people performing their own rituals in that moment to kind of reflect and honor a shared experience and emotion and intent in their own way. And I see the goth club and the art style of dancing in a very similar way.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that's my rant.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Of course, I actually, to go back to that, like, as far as with my rituals, like I incorporate a lot of dance with my rituals, and like I bring that a lot into the dance floor as well. Like I said, with like as above, so below type of energy,
Right.
and it feels very, 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 it feels very surreal and very nice to see other people doing the same thing, and you can kind of just feel that, other people that, they follow different paths and everything, but you can just feel that energy and that like very whimsical, very passionate, energy in the dance floor. So especially like with, again, with like a band like Incubus Succubus or Faith in the Muse, like those type of bands that can definitely bring that more out, so
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of emphasis of the uncanny, like you were mentioning. I think a lot of what goth dance has that it also is part of the goth ethos and is exemplified by even the names of the dance moves we've already discussed. There's a concept of the theater of the mind, of interacting with things that aren't there in a way that is almost inspired by, pantomime. But we've got things like plucking the cobwebs, and we've got pulling the taffy. We've got finding the lost contact. We've got hold the bat, love the bat, release the bat.
The lost contact.
Yeah. So all of those
Never heard of that one, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the sort of sweeping the ground, bent over.
It's fun. It's fun going down a rabbit hole of like YouTube and TikTok videos specifically about goth dance moves, because they all have such cute names. But yeah. Yeah, I know. Like it's Black Friday. I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos that
Yeah, I've
have
watched
names I've
Black
never heard of.
Fridays. I've watched Angela Benedict's. There was one that was done as like a after school, not after school, but like a little
Oh,
training
educational
video in
video. Yeah,
school, an
yeah, that's
educational
from a
video.
while ago. Yeah.
It was, yeah. I watched that one recently in preparation for this. But one of the dance moves I loved on that was, "Your friend just died. Keep dancing and stepping over your dead friend." Which
Yeah,
is a lot of fun. A lot of,
yeah.
you're dancing, then like a big step to the side, like you're stepping over a corpse, and then you're dancing, then
Yeah.
you step the other side, stepping over the corpse again. And I've definitely
Interesting.
seen people do that. I don't know if that's what they're envisioning, but a lot of the idea of goth dancing with the uncanny is this idea that you're bringing into reality something that's just in your mind, whether it's being
Mhm.
evoked by the music or just something you're thinking about, and you're expressing it in a way that obviously, as people have named them, they're seeing, what you're doing. They're seeing you grab those cobwebs or uh, unscrew that light bulb. They're seeing the taffy being pulled. They're seeing you hunting for those lost contacts. It's very obvious to people that you're by your motions creating something that is shared by the group who are observing the dance that isn't actually there. And that sense of the uncanny is really strong in that. And then another aspect, and this is something that I will do depending on the music. I will do this especially to Skinny Puppy. This is also
Mhm.
where the concepts of Butoh started resonating with me. But this idea of expressing in dance not just the aesthetic, as in the beautiful, but the ugly and the grotesque as
Mhm.
well. So generally, when I dance the Skinny Puppy, there's a lot of tension in my body. There'd be, so I would be really tensed up. So a lot of my muscles are trembling as I'm moving. It's not as flowy because I feel that Skinny Puppy's music a lot of times sort of there's a tortured nature to it.
Yeah.
So there's an aspect
Mhm.
of me moving that is like a body in agony, with a lot of tension and a lot of strain happening as I'm moving around. I'm also tended to be a lot lower. I'm not usually, like I said, with ballet, I'm not reaching up with Skinny Puppy. That's definitely, I don't do groundwork. I haven't really brought myself up to doing that, but it's as close to that as I can get the way I dance to um, that sort of style of music. But there's definitely a
Okay.
sense of taking the body and doing things with it in the way we move that make it seem um not quite human, kind of like horror movies or old black and white films, how they use cutting or isolations or stuff like that to make the body move in a way that is viewed as unnatural, um discomforting, that sort of thing that makes you just uncomfortable with, like you watch the vampire movies where they have the fast, slow
Yeah.
film speed thing that makes the walking weird, or you watch something like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari with the very unusually slow but kind of jerky movements of just one limited time, not a whole gestalt of the body moving, but individual elements. And that's also something that is one of the reasons that Bob Fosse's jazz style is very important because he's all about isolations. I get a lot of that from belly dance as well, which is also about body isolations. And to be fair, popping and locking also very much about
Popping.
isolations. So having
Yeah.
individual portions of your body moving as a focus rather than a whole flowing body, which I do whole body stuff too, but it's very interesting, especially when you've got something a little bit more rhythmically pronounced, to be emphasizing the rhythm that you're dancing with very abrupt motions of very specific portions of your anatomy, while other parts of your body may be dancing to a slower, more smooth beat. A portion of your
Yeah.
body is keeping time by being very sharp on like a snare hit or something like that. And I definitely incorporate that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I was gonna make it like kind of an example of like a raw video or there's this like I think it's a documentary. It's called Made in Sheffield, and it's a lot of like music from the 70s and early 80s with bands like, Cabaret Voltaire or this band called Artery. Um, Specifically, this band called Artery is like a post-punk band, and the vocalist was singing the song. The song, I think it's called Afterwards. He like sings it, and he just gets in this like really like crazy like movement, almost like seizure like, like dance. And it was always engraved in my brain, and like I always thought it was very cool and very, very different and unique, and as he was like singing it too. And it was very like dark post punk too, and I think it was like early 80s. And that really, I don't know, that made me feel so much better to kind of like also do weird movements like that, on the dance floor, or just move your body in different ways, because your body can do so much. So that always was engraved in my brain. But I do recommend uh, that documentary. It's pretty cool. It talks a lot about a lot of music. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know Tony mentioned Joy Division as well, and I think there's been a lot written about that. Ian Curtis, I think, took some inspiration from having seizures, if I'm not misremembering that.
Yes, I mean that's what people say. Is a lot of his
whether or not that was
dancing was
confirmed,
very
I'm not
much
sure,
right, but very much informed by his seizures.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask everybody, what is it about a specific piece of music that drives you to the dance floor? Is
good
there
question.
specific elements of songs that you just can't not go out and dance to?
Ooh, well, EBM, electric body music,
That's fine.
100%.
Yeah.
Electric body music, a lot of like, say like, I know that my friend Leah likes to play a lot of like Italo disco in her DJ set,
Ooh, yeah.
and I love Italo disco.
Yeah.
I also grew up listening to a lot of that, a lot of house music, and yeah, I would say that move your body.
So I can guess, but what specifically about that music? What element of the music is it that makes your body drawn to it?
Oh, it's just the
beat.
beat, that
Okay.
the drum, that just like, oh, it just makes me feel
Just that
the synth too. It just makes me feel so. I don't know. It sparks some sort of like fire in my body that I have to be on the
sort of
dance floor for
primal
it.
pummeling, feel it through your whole body, rattling through it through the
Yeah,
speakers.
exactly.
Okay.
And yeah, if I hear, I think it's called Pincer Mensch by And One, I'm gonna go on the dance floor. So like, so I'm
I
gonna.
mean, they did play that at the Melt Ice show.
Melt Ice show, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
Shout out to Rafa.
I can't listen to that song without hearing all the lyrics from the Pants Off Men YouTube parody of it. So that's always what I sing with that song.
Oh no.
But I love it.
Yeah, but no, it's great. No, it's a great song. It makes me really want to like punch a wall, but also like move my hips.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, at least for nowadays, I want to listen to things that I haven't really listened to too often, but because there's so many different styles of sounds, and I can't put my finger on which one that would really, like, as many of them do. So, but like at the moment, I love to hear the sound of like maybe Manifesto, or like for the record, Satyricon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like in a drum and bassy but very psychedelic sounding, and like forms of hip hop as well.
It's a little bit
So
of broken beat kind of
maybe
styles there.
like like that's what, like, I've been doing a lot of footwork.
Mm-hmm.
So like I just
Chicago
want to
footwork or just footwork in general?
just footwork,
Okay.
nothing specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to move my feet fast, so like that's what would draw me real like it. I guess like the more of like the hypnotic sounds of a very atmospheric,
Mhm.
I guess, techno electronic music that would draw me in.
Okay. Have you looked at cutting and shuffling as dance styles at all?
Uh, Probably.
Look into them because they're really good on the footwork.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
like Melbourne shuffle, or just cutting, which is usually mixed with shuffling. great styles for interesting footwork. You'd recognize them. They're very popular in a lot of EDM spaces too. When you see the people doing, the very footwork heavy dance styles. So
Like
you
I've
might
seen
like that.
gotcha, like Prodigy live performances
Mhm.
and like people joining in and doing their. I don't know if they're shuffling or not, but it's just like they're doing that footwork right there, and it's incredibly like I'm just like that looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with the old hip hop move, the Running Man,
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
one of the
Mhm.
foundational elements of shuffling.
Gotcha,
That sort of
gotcha.
idea, but you do it in all different directions. So yeah,
For
and works
sure.
well with a lot of the broken beat stuff that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, that'd be the sound right there. That would really get me. But when it comes to like many others, I guess I should have mentioned the. I just forgot about it. I should have mentioned like the more like minimal electronic
Hmm.
music, like easy one to identify is like Razone,
Okay,
Razone, and the other Fat Gadget.
love Fat
Um,
Gadget. Yeah,
yeah, like that's just the more weirder sounding and minimal, the
hmm,
more I just love so much.
yep, I
Yeah.
totally feel that.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, just one thing. I am getting ready to head out. I put my scrubs on. I do have an overnight
Oh,
at the
okay.
hospital tonight. But I'll give you guys a really quick answer. I do dance to all sorts of things. Sometimes I dance to things that the thing's own fan base usually doesn't dance to, like stuff like black metal, noisy music like Paysage d'hiver,
Hmm.
or something experimental like Nurse with Wound and things like that. But
Oh man, Nurse with Wound. That's nice. Nice reference there.
yeah, shout out to DJ B Sides. But if I'm gonna pick like something ideal that I could just, quickly discuss, it would be something like Dance Floor Tragedy by Suspiria.
Yeah.
And that could get me on the dance floor right away. And because of like certain factors, I would say something to do with the buildup. I love the
Hmm.
buildup. Like when
Hmm.
a song builds up to something badass, and then you start with that guitar effect that's just, repeating. There's that repetition. It's like a factory that just, you turned on the factory and just everything, all the cogs in the gear started working. And the same with your body, everything starts to work. And you get that, the kind of like a baritone goth vocals that are just ongoing. He's just dropping, verse after verse or lyric after lyric of like these goth vocals. I believe Matthew Carlution, if I'm not wrong. So that would be like a standard song that could definitely get me going on the dance floor.
Yeah, nice.
Well, Hani, I don't want to hold you back. You got to get ready and go. So let me. Well, again, always lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
So last question I was going to ask to sort of wrap everything together. The main like theme is kind of a love letter to goth dancing, and so kind of an appreciation for dance, and also an encouragement for experimentation and letting go of some control and letting your emotions flow through your body, and be present in the energy of the crowd and the music. So I want to leave people with that encouragement to go dance, but I also thought it might be worth taking a second for anyone who is just getting out to a club for the first time, or maybe is starting to explore that now. If there are like some common dance floor mistakes or rules of etiquette to sort of keep in mind when you are a newbie.
I think just like respecting people's space,
Hmm.
maybe like if the dance floor is a little tight, like obviously maybe not use too much room because other people want to dance freely as well. But I mean, by all means, if it's like a dead dance floor, like yeah, like go crazy, But again, respectful of people's surroundings, also boundaries, like that's a big thing. Um, but that's really it. Yeah.
Like say the same, respect people. One thing that I've experienced myself is like I don't think that newcomers are gonna do it, but like mocking other dancers, because like
Yeah,
I've had that for myself,
yeah,
and
that's happened a couple times.
it's really it's so disrespectful. It means to me that you don't care about the music or the place, or
Yeah.
it, it it's it's not it's not nice. That's it.
No,
You
it's
have a
not.
very sad life if you're doing
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
like
I like when I see that, I will do whatever they're mocking bigger and better than
Yeah,
whatever they're mocking. Like, all right, you want to make fun of me for that?
yeah,
Let me make fun
exactly.
of myself with that. Here you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's
I-
like other forms of just like they will come and dance with you, and well, when they came in to dance with me, like it looks like they're having a good time, but then like I will continue to dance, and then they'll just stop. But I was like, what was the point of that? Like, what was the point of you two? I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm reading it wrong, but uh, it, I say just you know look for what is interesting to you, see what it brings the good out of you, and if Gothic music is not like if you're not too familiar with it, to give it patience, time, and listen to the music while you're there. Observe your surroundings. That's
Yeah.
all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was jokingly, well, I was gonna say like hygiene, like wear deodorant, just because, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just I've had
Yeah.
a couple instances where I was like, oh, someone's a little stinky, but like, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything bad. I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, but like, we all get sweaty, we all get like,
Gonna
you
say it can
know,
be hard if there's longer nights.
yeah,
Yeah. They'll,
The
they'll wear
deodorant
out.
only lasts so long if you're dancing hard. Now I'm
yeah,
generally pretty lucky because I sweat pretty cleanly, but I know other people who, they can put on all the deodorant they want, and if they're going out for a 5 hour night dancing,
oh
like at
yeah,
Nocturna,
yeah,
they
My
just
arms are
it appears, it comes out, and
yeah,
I just deal with that.
yeah.
yeah, my arms are like full of sweat, and the other one is just defeated, like it's just gone. Can't
It's
do
just
nothing about
evaporated.
that.
I
Reload.
think also like don't don't just walk up and stand next to someone.
Oh,
If you're on the dance floor, you got to dance, you know what I mean? I know sometimes it gets really packed and you kind of have to worm your way through, but in general, the dance floor is for dancing.
mm,
Um
Yeah.
the bar is for chatting or drinking or whatever you're going to do.
Mhm.
I forgot about that. Like that's one of my like pet peeves is just
pet
like
peeve.
if you're gonna drink it at the bar. If you're gonna be dancing, dude.
Yeah,
Uh,
those
Yeah,
gonna be mine. Finish your fucking drink,
yeah.
yeah,
then
exactly.
Yeah,
dance.
cuz the
Yeah.
dance floor is all sticky and shit. That's not fun.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
you accidentally bump someone's drink, and oh, they get mad at
Yeah.
you, or you're like you have drink
Yeah.
on your nice outfit, and you're like, oh, So it's like, yeah, maybe not be by the dance floor when a lot of people are dancing with your drinks. Just it's bound to be on the floor or on your
Yeah.
outfit. So
Yeah, don't be
The
mad
only
if it gets dropped. Don't be
yeah, exactly.
the only thing that moderates that for me a little bit is, sometimes you can't predict when that song comes on that you really want to dance with or dance to.
Yeah.
And especially as a woman, you can't leave your drink.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So
In there.
I get the need to I this needs to stay with me, otherwise it's just the rest of it's wasted and I just wasted money, but I have to dance with this song. I get
Mm.
that. But there are too many people who just seem to be out, they don't seem to be that engaged with the song. They're just on the dance floor dancing and they just constantly have a drink in their hand, and that drives me up the wall.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
It
Definitely.
was also, I mean, I started going out before smoking was banned, and the cigarettes were almost as bad,
Oh
if not
yeah.
worse.
Oh
I've
man.
almost been singed a couple of times because somebody's dancing
No.
with a lit cigarette. That was very common in the 90s.
Oh.
All those cloves.
Yeah.
Mm, I miss cloves.
Uh,
Circling up is another thing I'd like to see happen less. So that is one of those common tropes in mainstream
Yeah.
clubs that, especially when dance floor space is at a premium, creating that circle is
Yeah.
just inconsiderate of the rest of the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's time to wrap up. Thank you both so much for your time.
Oh, yeah.
This
Thank
was really wonderful.
Yeah, it was great.
I had a lot of fun.
Yasmine, we'll start with you. Can you share your where you want people to go check out your band or your socials, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So as some of you know, I'm in a duo project with my partner Jason. We're called XandStacy. We're very much like influenced by EBM, newbie, synth pop. Jason wants to call ourselves body beat. So very much like move your body is our motto. I kind of like take the inspiration from the house song "Move Your Body" by Marshall Jefferson. That was a big song that my dad would always play. So it's like rock your body, move your body. So like move your body is a big motto for us, especially in electronic body music and EBM. So but yeah, follow us on Instagram, XandStacy. We have a couple shows coming up. We have one in March at Crowbar Lounge. We're playing with Iron Years and Ghost Days.
Love Iron Years.
Yeah, and Redder Moon. And I think Melter, I call it Melter Man, is going to be drumming, I think. I forgot. I think in Iron Years, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. I don't know. But yeah. So that's happening. And then April, it hasn't been announced yet, but we're playing in a show at Empty Bottle. So that's going to be a very, very fun one.
That's a fun little venue.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play there. Both artists that are playing with us are really cool. So that's going to be a secret until it's announced fully, but I'm excited for that one. But yeah, our music we just want everyone to dance to it. But
yeah, I enjoyed your set at Melt Ice. It was a lot of fun.
Thank
Oh, it was
you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
you had great energy.
Oh, thank you. No, I love to move my body, and also that 55-gallon drum was kind of like a cool thing to bring. I've been wanting to bring more like cool like industrial like elements to our set, and Jason, my partner, was even saying like like this EP that we want to make is going to be very much like kind of like I won't say whimsical, much more not as hard as I like want it to be. So, but the next one for sure will have more like metal clanking and more cooler elements. So, I might even bring power tools on stage. So,
Hell yeah.
well, we'll
Very
see it.
Neoboutin of you.
Yeah. So we'll see. But my personal Instagram is Estrella. I'm also a dancer. I'm a performer. I do a lot of like performative like dance art. It's very much like improv. I do my own dances. I come up with my own moves. I have been kind of like dancing to a lot of like not want to say local, but a lot more like bands that are kind of in the similarity of what like XandStacy is influenced by. So, but yeah, I've been doing like a lot of events. Like I've done Nightshade, Nocturna recently, and I bring a
Saw
lot
you
of
there
like,
too.
yeah, a lot of elements of like, drag, burlesque, and dancing all combined. I want to experiment and obviously like very being very much into the LGBTQ community and the queer community. So yeah, I always like support all of my friends in there, and yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Follow me on my Instagrams, and hope to see you guys out there more and dance with you all. So I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. What about you, Tony?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram and uh Bonky Bonki, one more I and the X. I mean, it's just myself. I I could say that my name is stems from my video game handler for tournament playing for Street Fighter 2, top 3 in Chicago.
Hell yeah.
So I'm pretty good at it. So on that, I post on my Instagram. I do post records. I do have a hefty collection. So I'm a big prog rock head. So I that's where like my ears is leaning to right now. I will post some dancing sometimes. I'm not a big fan of recording myself. I like to I wish that people record uh like the best moments of when I'm on the floor, but I'm too focused on to rather to than to uh be like, oh, I'm gonna record my best dancing here, and then
Yeah.
I don't work like that. So
Yeah, I've had a few people record me dancing at various things, and it's neat to have those as an archive, but I've never planned it myself.
yeah, I don't dance the best when I'm recording it. I was like, I'm too focused on, or like I want to be focused on recording myself, which my mind is
Yeah.
still thinking about it when I am dancing. So,
Mhm.
uh, but maybe I could get better at that, and then one day it would not be present. But uh,
I'll
I
have to check
I
out
do.
your prog rock suggestions too, because I'm not super familiar with prog rock, but I do enjoy it. So I'll have to
I mean, yeah, there's a
check
lot of
it.
wonderful
I
ones.
mean, I can help you with that too. I listen to a lot of prog
Yeah,
rock.
yeah.
I'm a fan of prog rock.
Yeah, Gentle Giant is one of my favorites. Soft Machine.
Hmm.
What else? Super Sister, and a lot more like the avant-garde side of from different countries. I love the more what's the word, dissonant
Yeah,
sounding
yeah,
um records, and just the weird side of life, honestly. The more weird, the
yeah.
Well, the great
better.
thing about different
Hell yeah.
countries is it's not necessarily dissonant in their culture, but it sounds very strange to us if they're using a different tuning system that is maybe normal in India or
Yeah,
in Czechoslovakia or something that
Sweden.
is outside of our standard 12 tone equal temperament.
Exactly. That's what I love about it. Just the different, like you're traveling through different parts of the world.
Hmm.
It just that's why I'm a big nerd when it comes to record collecting. Just it's my journey right there. So, but
Great.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna. I can guarantee you we could talk for another few hours.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Wonderful, fantastic insights. Really appreciate getting to spend time with you both. I think you're both incredible people. So thanks for coming on the show and hanging out for a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
same.
No, thank you so much. If you ever have another podcast of about dancing, I mean, I'm all here for it. So let
I'd
me know.
love to have you guys back on. Yeah, and hopefully
I
I'll see you
will.
out at something.
Yeah.
Something, yeah, right. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
Yasmine, Tony, and Hani, thank you again for the discussion today. It was really enjoyable, really engaging, and it's nice to have a substantive conversation about goth dance. I think there's a lot more that could be said, and it's something that I don't see in the rotation of topics that get posted online about goth culture. For whatever reason, the vast majority of content out there about goth dance is basically boils down to presenting dance moves. So it was nice to have a substantive discussion about something that I think is really inherent to goth culture and has been there since the beginning. As I was sort of thinking about this idea of the internet and the presentation of goth dance on the internet, it dovetailed for me with something that I've been doing in my personal life, which is sort of disconnecting from major tech services, moving toward self-hosting, getting off of subscription services, doing a lot of work to try and keep my information private, changing, having a different email for every service I'm on, removing most apps from my phone, using a credit card generator for purchases, getting off of websites like Amazon and Twitter and all these sorts of things. The primary motivator for that for me is the lack of care and security that is put toward our personal information that's just out there. Not just the way that it's sold to data brokers to build profiles, the way they use fingerprinting on our browsers and all of these kinds of things, to train AI and to use our personal information for profit, but also just the complete lack of operational security. I work in tech, And I've seen plenty of tech companies poorly handle customer data. And from the outside, of course, we've all had the, oops, we got hacked. All your personal information is out there on the black market now. And of course, these companies are demanding more and more of our information, using it without our permission, even maybe without our conscious permission. Google using our emails and text messages for their AI training and just reading through all of that. But the secondary reason is the mental toll, the unhealthy effect it has on my ADHD brain. I wouldn't say addictive, but certainly a activity that takes me away from the present moment and away from the people and activities that are actually meaningful, edifying, and important to me. I've heard of the internet and our compulsion to use our cell phones talked about as this other world. When you're on your devices, time moves differently. You are less connected to your physical body. You're in this digital world, kind of unmoored from what we would consider reality. This is something I've heard Isabella Van Elfren talk about in her various papers and books, in different terms, though similar sort of concept. More recently, though, Katja Ungerman wrote an article about this, and she kind of talks about the dangers of the online space. And others still talk about sort of visiting and coming away from these online spaces a changed person, whether that be through the alt-right pipeline and conspiracy theories and all these sorts of things. And I think dance, to connect it back to the topic, specifically goth dance, because that's what we're talking about, can be such a healthy alternative to this compulsion. Van Elfren talks about how music creates its own kind of space and time, and music opens a portal to another dimension, and dance then allows us to move through and dissolve those boundaries between the worlds, the boundaries of flesh and of subjectivity and objectivity in this embodied and enacted manner. I think a lot of us use the internet as a way to escape the mundanity of life. But as I've sort of very briefly, because I don't want to make this a tech podcast, though I could if there's interest in that, there are all sorts of negative effects that come with this overuse of the internet. So I think goth dance and goth in general are a great way of blurring the boundaries between what we might see our daily routines and mundane world as, with a more romantic and magical and strange and uncanny dimension. Of course, dance is a great pressure relief valve as well, a sort of sped up detox from our digital drugs. But for as much as I talk about actor network theory and this idea that reality, our world, is brought forth, is enacted through these material behaviors, actions, interactions, and our environment. And, you know, inanimate objects and things like music are their own actors in the world and provide their own influence on the world that we sort of have this reciprocal relationship with, and all of these points of interaction create our reality. I think goth dance is such a great illustration of that experience. And as this discussion about technology and social media services continues to ever increase in scrutiny and popularity, I think subculture can serve as such a great alternative to this other world that we have become sucked into. And goth dance, again, I think is a great visible analogy for the interactive relationship between what some might think of as inanimate objects, like a building or the incense in the club or the clothing we're wearing. Those are actually, I think, entities that are creating their own influence. and interactions. And I think dance nicely represents that relationship between us and material objects and other organisms. We don't passively consume the music. We interact with it physically, emotionally, mentally. Our clothing is not simply an adornment or a statement, but an agent that influences our state of mind and how we move physically, our self-confidence, and so on and so on. And I think maybe the last thing I wanted to bring up, unfortunately, Trey's not here. I'm editing this episode a little bit late. It would have been nice to have that conversation maybe in a future date. But I did some research for this episode, and I was reading about Butoh. It means dark, dance of darkness. It's a post-World War II style of theater dance in Japan. I'm going to put a link. I try and include reference links to greater and lesser comprehensiveness, depending on the episode. But I'm going to have a link in the show notes for a paper about Butoh, which I would recommend everyone read. It's pretty short, and it really is interesting and insightful. But there's a whole set of philosophies and concepts that come with Butoh that I find really fascinating. I won't go into all of it because I would basically then just be plagiarizing the article. So I'll put a link to that. But one of the aspects of this dance that I will talk about as an example is related to the collectivist culture of Japan and its imposition of high body control. Butoh movement challenges this by assuming that a person cannot repeat a planned choreography or even a single movement, because each of us have different bodies, and even the same dancer cannot repeat the same movement exactly the same way. And that is part of the understanding underlying the improvisation of the dance style. The dancers will also do things like roll their eyes into the back of their head to illustrate a self-reflection, a internal dialogue, and introspection, I guess. And I think that's really fascinating hearing this style described and the ways that even, having paint on the body and the little cracks that form as the dancer moves has its own meaning. And all of these different things are purposeful. And I think it illustrates how deeply embedded art is in culture and how deeply physical the culture we are brought up in becomes, that we carry that in our bodies and in our behaviors and in our thought processes. Not to beat a dead horse, but again, going back to this idea that goth is somehow apolitical, we are embedded in these systems, in these cultures, in these communities, all little mini communities, your work, your school, your family, the broader culture of your country. And we can't distance ourselves from these things. We think that we can act in the world in a way that is unrelated, but we are embedded in these systems, so much so that they become a part of our physical selves. And I think reading this article about Butoh really drove that point home in a way that I sort of began to think about the ways that culture and my upbringing and all of these things have impacted the way I carry myself, my physical illnesses, my physical abilities. And again, sort of puts the nail in the coffin of this idea that we can somehow be apolitical. The body is not just biology, but also socially constructed and carries with it social norms, rules, and values. So, of course, our interactions in our community with others have all of these underlying interactive aspects. And I think if goth is anything, it is thoughtful. It is, you watch all these interviews from the 90s and other times. Goths will always say, it's more, goth is more about introspection in a lot of ways. And I think if that's the case, it does us well to think about and analyze aspects of our culture, such as dance, which I suppose is what this entire podcast is built on. So I don't have to tell you. That. So those are my closing thoughts for this episode. On our next episode, we're going to be speaking with some Goths from Sweden who are musicians, promoters, DJs, and we're going to be talking about Goth culture there, what it's like, what it looks like, what the differences are, what the climate and community is like. I always enjoy doing these episodes to get perspective from outside of my American bubble. Of course, over the years, we've visited so many of these countries, whether specifically to discuss the goth scene in those countries or just to have the perspective of others on the show in a different variety of ways. And so I am really looking forward to that. So if you can, make sure you are subscribed to the podcast or to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. And if you would like to go one step further, you can tell a friend. That's extremely helpful. And if you would like to go a step further than that to allow us to continue to produce this show, it's been 11 years now. And I am so blessed and honored to have this opportunity, to have this platform to elevate the voices of other people in the goth community. So if you would like to support that, please go to patreon.com/cemeteryconfessions and you can sign up for $1 a month. And that $1 gets you access to Discord, but also does genuinely help support this show. I am going to be purchasing some new equipment soon, before the next episode, I hope, because I am having some issues with my current mixer. It's been probably, 6-7 years since I set all this current equipment up. I got to make some changes. Stuff degrades over time. So all of your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you again to everyone on Patreon who has and does support us. It means the world to me. Once again, our show comes to a close, and parting is such sweet sorrow, but I am eternally grateful that you have chosen to spend your time with us here, and look forward to spending time with you on the next episode. So until then, stay dark.
The preceding program is a member of the Belfry, a network of blogs, podcasts, and videos for the darkly inclined. Go to thebelfry.rip for more information.